and welcome to Does the Team Think? Hello indeed. I am Vic Reeves, the UK's #1 racing gondola champion. And welcome to Does the Team Think? The show where 4 Lucian licentious party animals gather around me and air their spindly thoughts and petty grievances for public consumption and hope of a pardon from their local ombudsman. And the first of these lascivious loungers is Joe Caulfield! Oh, there she is. Hobbit-style trapeze artist Joe was the silhouette model for many famous road and highway signs, including Men at Work, Old People Crossing, Clean Up After Your Dog, and even the Beware Deer Crossing emblem. Although whilst posing for this road sign, she was run over by a speeding Vauxhall Viva and killed. Fortunately, her ghost has agreed to reappear for tonight's show. It's Joe. My next guest is Arthur Smith. There he sits. Like Rod Steiger in The Illustrated Man, Arthur is encrusted in thousands of tattoos depicting his turbulent life. From the visit to the butcher's, aged 1 with his mother to buy some tripe and a boiling hen, which appears upon his fevered brow, to the image of himself as a young man buying a muddy publication from a Rasputin look-alike on the outskirts of Barrow-in-Furness. Today he unveils his latest image, Bruce Foxton from the Jam's legs disappearing into his rear crevasse. It's Arthur. My third guest is Tom Baker. Yeah. Tom was, in fact, a piper's son. And he did steal a pig and away did run. The pig was eat, and Tom was beat. And also, coincidentally, Tom went howling down the street. The point to mention in difference to the rhyme is that the pig Tom kidnapped and ate was the Chief of Midlands Police. So, whisht lads, had yours gobs. My fourth and final guest is Laurence Llewelyn-Bowen. Now, Lawrence's bloodline dates incredibly directly back to Mr. T of the A-Team. The lineage has been proven by senior genealogists who have declared that, without resolve, Laurence is truly the heir to the untold millions that dangled from Mr. T's neck. So, without question, in time, Laurence will be the wealthiest person in Peckham. That's Laurence, and let's crack on with the show. And the first question comes from the woman with the pious look and the Puritan's hat on with the Ann Summers bag.
My name's Neve, and my question is, in which situation does the team think they're most likely to lose their temper?
When would you lose your temper? I lose my temper when people draw on my face with a biro. Or any indelible pen, for that matter, Tom.
I think that just being alive is a state which you're at any moment likely to lose your temper. When you might be at an airport or in a queue in the post office, where sometimes you long for death. You think it's going to happen before you get there. All sorts of things make me explode. I mean, some of the presenters on Today, the vicar who does Thought for Today, who's obsessed. Have you noticed that vicars and bishops are absolutely bloody well obsessed with sinners? If you do the best you can and pick up somebody's card and say, I think you dropped this, they're not interested in you at all. But I mean, if you're trading drugs and robbing banks and everything like that, they can't wait to get you in. So I'm in a constant state of bad temper. It's suddenly come over me now.
I know.
Bugger it, yeah.
I feel it in waves. It's sort of the heat coming off you, sort of almost menopausal heat coming off you. I'm quite lucky, actually, because I tend not to... I can't remember the last time I did lose my temper. I think I might have slightly fallen out with a tie the other day.
What?
Fallen out with a tie.
A tie?
Yes, it just wasn't. It wasn't knotting itself properly.
Oh, no, right, not a tie.
I see. You thought of a person of the tie race. No. I'm quite an even-tempered sort of bloke, actually, and I don't think I lose my temper very readily. And in fact, I don't like it when I do lose my temper, because I think it's you sort of lose control of the situation somewhat. And
shut up!
See,
Well, I don't know,
curmudgeon.
Control.
Well, Arthur, you must lose your temper constantly.
Yeah. I'll tell you what, I lose my temper in supermarkets all the time. Like, there's this new thing when I invariably have to do a lap of the whole supermarket before I get any item, and then if you think, well, I'll ask someone, excuse me, where is the milk? And then some youth, instead of just saying it's up there on the left, he has to walk along with you now. Have you noticed? You feel like walking along saying, well, how's it going for you, all right? What am I meant to say to this bloke?
I say hold me hand.
You're right, that's the way. Yeah, go on the attack.
Joe.
Anywhere where it involves service of any kind. I get really annoyed any time you've got to phone up mentioning no names, NTL or Virgin Media, and hang on the phone for ages. And what I really hate is when they don't help you at all, and then at the end of the phone call they go, is there anything else I can help you with? You go, you haven't helped me. That drives me insane when they do that. And service is generally, in this country, very bad. But then I get annoyed in America because service is too good. Because it's too, when you go in everyone, they go, hi, how are you? Hi, how are you? And because being British, you don't have an automatic response, so I tell them. Really, I'm getting a bit depressed, thinking I might have picked up some sort of disease, Because in Britain, it's rubbish and you're just sort of forced to shoplift, which now I don't mind so much, as the very good service, which is too good for me.
Now, the next question is an email question. And it's from Laurence Culpepper of Ashton de la Zouche, and he says, are the team accident prone? I am, on occasion. Sometimes I wake up on a morning, open the fridge, and everything falls out. Heads, arms, legs, jars with things in. You must know the feeling, Arthur.
Well, I am... I am prepared to get a cheap laugh by falling off my chair.
But unfortunately, we're on radio.
They can paint the picture. See, I am accident prone. I'm not. I mean, this glass that's been sitting in front of me is a miracle it's survived.
And you have wrecked your whole area around you.
Yeah,
everyone else is neat.
There's lemons everywhere.
Sometimes when I've been on a train, I turn around to look back at where I've been sitting and I leave a £10 tip for the cleaner. I just think they cannot have to do this without some extra incentive.
And look at all the stuff that's fallen out of your pocket. There's 17 yen in a prostitute's card.
Yeah. Never go breakdancing, you lose your change.
Laurence.
I mean, it is extraordinary, I think, that, even reasonably adept people go through these patches where absolutely everything falls to pieces, the bin bag starts leaking, you drop your keys down a drain. I'd love to know exactly what happens at that point where everything does start going wrong, when accidents start occurring. But it's been a while since I had the last one. I'm sure I'm due a new one.
Joe.
I've written off 3 cars. I think that's quite accident-prone. 2 of them were from a stationary position. So, where I panicked and didn't realise the traffic was moving, but didn't move. So I've done that. And to the point where people, because comics often give each other lifts, if we're all going to Manchester, we'll give each other lifts. So people will actually rather get on a National Express bus than be driven by me anywhere.
Tom, I've asked you.
No, you haven't asked me, but I'll tell you. I actually entirely believe in accidents because they are a fact of life and, of course, often a fact of death. And in between those 2 points, practically everything that happens to us is some kind of accident. Like, for example, getting conceived. I believe that's... of course, I was there, I suppose, in embryo. Falling in love, falling out of love, all these kind of accidents that we've got no control over. I'm not talking about the sadness of being run over and then the people have to see you run over. That's really rather horrid. But I mean, but everything else is an accident, and everywhere I go, sometimes I've travelled quite widely in the universe, and everywhere I've been, I've seen people and groups talking, and they're all talking about accidents. I don't understand what they say, but I can tell what they say. It's as if they're saying, and do you know what? You won't believe this. I came out of the door this morning, and then an accident happened.
Well, on that final and striking note, let's move on to the next question, which is from the man there firmly clutching his... Sorry, is it? Yes, it is. It's an Eddie Cochran LP. The man clutching his Eddie Cochran LP. What's your name and what's your question?
Hi, my name's Robin, and my question is, does the team think there's ever a positive role for wigs on men?
I find a large afro is good for smuggling things through customs. Carpets, rifles, photocopiers. What about you, Laurence?
I think the mistake with wigs is to, in any way, think that they're convincing. No, stop looking quite so closely.
Tom's having a look.
It's not. It's obviously not on straight. No, I think the sort of the 18th century habit of wearing really improbable fake hair is quite good. It could be raised.
Well, everyone wore them then.
Well, exactly.
I saw a man once in Tenterden who'd clearly been wearing a toupee for some time, but his hair had been receding at the back, and so he had a half moon of baldness. And he
That's
obviously
quite
hadn't
nice.
checked the back recently.
Sort of smiley face at the back there.
It was,
as he walked through.
I felt good for him. Tom?
Years and years ago, when if you were very bald, you couldn't, unless you were very distinguished with it, you couldn't get a job as an actor. And I used to go to smart afternoon parties there. And it was one of the days when actors wore blazers and little cravats and things like that. They used to have those marmalade-coloured wigs on that you can see right across Oxford. So you say he's got a, whatever they used to say, an Irish jig. But one chap, I won't tell you his name, it was Gordon Horton, but anyway, he's dead now. But he was so anxious that we used to go out into the gents' lavatory, and he used to put salt on his shoulders like that. And then he'd come back in and he'd be talking to you, and he said, "It's bloody dandruff, And his wig was on at a rakish angle like that, all of the colour of marmalade, and he was trying to authenticate it, It was very sad.
Arthur?
Yeah, I remember a bloke...
You ever bothered considering a wig?
Well, if I have, as you can see, it's been a disaster. But I remember when I first saw a bloke with a wig when I was an optician's when I was 6, and the chap who looked at me the previous week suddenly had this great head of hair, and I was quite young, and I just thought it was a hat, really. and in a sense, that that's what people do. They're trying to pretend a hat is part of their body. And I think that's a very peculiar thing. It's like if I said these shoes are actually my feet. I mean, they're
Painted on shoes.
Yeah, that's it.
Joe, are you fond of wigged men?
No, but some people have, and I don't think this is a wig, but I am fascinated. I was once very up close to Andrew Neil. Do you know Andrew Neil?
Yes.
Yes. And he's got really peculiar hair, and I was thinking, it's like a hairpiece, but it's not made of hair. I couldn't work out. It's like a sort of carpet, but I do think it actually is his hair. But I'm not in favour. What I am in favour of, I love the Barristers wig. I think they look great. Like, you would look good in a Barristers wig. I could see you on Carrie.
At night on occasions.
I think we've got a few men here with sort of flesh-coloured hair.
Bring back the wig, yeah.
Definitely.
I think it's, I applaud the wig. I think it's a very good thing, and if you can wear it well, then good on you. But when, if you don't, it's like a man who doesn't, like as you say, Arthur, you might as well just paint your shoes on. So, moving on to the next question, and it's an email. And this one comes from the Swingle Singers from Cambridge, and they want to know, what would the team have as a superpower? Well, I'd have one leg which could drill deep into the Earth's crust. But that's just me.
Well, if I had a superpower, I think I'd like to have the capability of finding anything I want in the supermarket. Without having to ask the spotty
Without
boy
having to hold the hand of a young boy.
Yeah. Or I'd like an invisible carapace around myself. A sort of like plexiglass all around my body. And then I'd like to go to, say, a football match where there are some young Arsenal supporters who are not very nice and say, Arsenal are crap. Then they take a big punch at me, but because my carapace is made out of this, they break their wrist.
That is very impressive.
I'm sorry, it's rather cruel, actually, but then you'd be immune from attack. You can't say anything at all, couldn't you?
Quite right. I was just thinking about what you said about the supermarket. There are things in the supermarket which you were mentioning earlier where you don't know where they are, and one of those things is lemon juice. If you ask for lemon juice, they never know what aisle to put it in.
Yeah, it's tricky.
Anyway, we'll leave that there. And another thing.
And another thing. I wonder if one day I'm going to find that I'm actually spending my whole life trying to open one of those little plastic bags in the supermarket. You can't do it if you're over 40.
There's a lot of things I can't open. Tom, what would be your superpower?
Well, I think about this a lot. I really do. In fact, I sometimes think, God, I wish I was God. And it's always to do with inflicting pain on people. Like, for example, if I'm watching television, I'd love to have the power to be actually the people I disapprove of, to suddenly give them a really sharp electric shock.
Who might these people be, Tom? Give us a couple of names.
Pretty well everybody. Pretty well everybody, I think. Or Goose. We're absolutely fantastic, wouldn't it? The newsreader saying, "Goody,
goose 'em."
Yeah. The girls doing the weather on Sky. Yeah, I'd like to do that. It's to do actually with disconcerting people all of a sudden. That would be a wonderful power to have, wouldn't it? Actually, I quite often think that if the gun laws were different in this country, I would probably shoot about 3 people a day. If I was actually out and about.
That's all right, you've been given confession for that, so you're all right.
So your superpower would be simply the freedom to use a revolver?
Oh, no, not a revolver.
A rifle?
Mostly to actually, kind of...
So just goosing?
Yeah,
goosing and then shooting.
Goosing, yes, and or suddenly making them burst into tears or develop a stammer.
There's a lot going on here.
Yeah,
what a superpower.
It'd be rather like, in France, whereas there are an awful lot of hare lips in France because of all that crispy bread. But it'd be quite nice, wouldn't it, if suddenly the guy reading the news said, "Listen, the news," and the girl who's supposed to be electrified by it looks at him perhaps in amazement, to which he then says, "What are you looking at? Your hatchet thing."
Well, you've got a lot to beat there. Laurence, what's your superpower?
It's this kind of thing is very dangerous because, the immediate reaction is to try and...
Tom it is, yeah.
Well, exactly. Try and sort of, do things to sort out the wrongs in your own life. But I'm very simple superpower, which is that occasionally I'd like to be a little bit Tom Baker-ish. Have that ability to go into a telephone kiosk and step out like that.
Yeah.
But not have to live there forever. Just do it when I feel like it.
Oh, bliss.
Your wish is my command, Joe.
As a child, I loved Batman. So I was kind of like those sort of wearing a pants outfit. But have done that, taking clothes on a phone box thing, but just been drunk normally and nothing's happened. But what I do actually think, maybe, I don't know, if I ask people here, how many of you here listen in to other people's conversations? Yes. Oh, quite a lot of men. They don't normally listen to their own conversations, so that does surprise me. It is normally women. But I think I would like that. I'd like to be able to eavesdrop over a very far distance, if I could, and especially of people you know. So as you're coming to meet them, you could hear them go, "Oh no, Jo did turn up. I tried to put her off, but she's here."
Right, the next question comes from... Hang on, it's the sylph-like nymph down there with the undying lux. Is it? Sorry, no, it's a man.
My name's Matt. What does the team think is their idea of a good night in?
What is the team's idea of a good night in? Well, I like to spend my evening sellotaping pictures of David Copperfield. into my magic shoebox. Ooh, what a night that would be. What's your kind of night in, Laurence?
I think a good night in would be marvellous. Just, you know, quite conventional, romantic, by the fire.
On your own?
It's difficult to top perfection in many ways.
Tom, I really like being in. I'm mostly happy in the house, you know, which is clean and warm, and there's stacks of red wine, and I, you know, shout at the television all the time, which grieves my wife. And I suddenly realised that some of the things I like is tormenting the people who love me the most. Actually, maybe I should say tormenting the only one that loves me so much. It's a terrible thing, that. And I'm in there, and the cats are curled up, and my wife is curled up. Yes, it's yeah.
Arthur, what's a good night in?
A good night in for me is a night where I'm not skiing. Because I really hate skiing, whether it's in or out. You know, I mean, skiers are so stupid they actually call it downhill skiing, you know. And if I wanted to ski indoors, I know what I'd have to do. I'd just have to go and get in my bath, fill it with cold ice and smash my legs with a hammer. So any night I'm in and I'm not skiing is a great result for me.
Joe?
I really like being in, even to the point like now, like if someone actually says to me, oh, we're having a party, I'm just like, oh no, do you have to? Because I don't want to go. And as soon as I do go to a party, I always go into their kitchen and look around for that little card that has a minicab number on to see if I can get home. That's all I'm interested in, is then getting out of there.
The next question is an email question, and it comes from John Anderson and Vangelis. And the question is, does the team believe in alternative medicine? Does the team believe in alternative medicine? So, is it paracetamols or Nurofen? Joe?
I've had acupuncture because people tell you to have it, and I had that, and I found it really annoying because you're basically just lying there, and the woman will say, tell me when it hurts you. So you're just lying there waiting for someone to hurt you. I'm thinking, I might as well have had a one-night stand, isn't it? Exactly.
It's normally called torture.
Yeah, and there's the other thing where I hate it, and that is the Daily Mail thing, isn't it? There's always something that you're meant to eat, and it's something new every week. And they always have surveys. And there's one I do like. Usually about every 2 years, they'll have a report, and it says, doctors say alcohol is good for you, which I like, isn't it? But bad side, always red wine. It's never gin or Bacardi Breezer or something, is it? But I do that. It says you're meant to drink a glass and a half of red wine every day.
I read it was a bottle.
A bottle. It's difficult, though, isn't it? Especially when you're already very drunk. I've had my lager, now I've got to have the red wine for the doctor. Yeah.
Arthur, you must have some agreements there. Fags, for instance.
I have a Kundalini aura with Reiki yoga side dish, into which I rub essential oils and ancient quartz crystals to improve my spiritual growth. So, no, I don't believe a word of it. It's all a load of horse rubbish. Yeah, horse dung.
Horse rubbish?
Yeah, horse rubbish.
Yeah, horse rubbish. Horse rubbish.
What they've discarded from their stables is more or less what you buy for £17.50 in alternative shops.
It's horse riddles. Tom, alternative medicine, yay or nay?
Oh, absolutely, yes. I mean, I think, above all, the received wisdom should be avoid doctors at all costs.
Yeah, I agree with that.
And whatever you do, don't let anyone get you into hospital. That is absolutely incredible now, because, I mean, there used to be a time when I'd go and see, I was a compulsive visitor of other men's mothers, and I didn't mind kissing them and coming out with a cold sore. But I deeply resent going in and giving someone a kiss on the cheek and coming out with bloody leprosy or MRSA. And I noticed the other day when I was in visiting again, especially I go to see people who are in terrible pain, and I noticed that the people who come in to see them are frightened now. This is an amazing indictment of our society. People are now afraid in hospitals to kiss or caress their loved ones because they're frightened of catching something horrid.
Like death.
Well, yes, if you want, yes, you always go a bit far, actually. Yes.
Well, just get to the point.
Yes, so avoid them like the plague.
Lawrence, are you in favour of quacks and mountebanks?
I don't know. I think it's something that we're very good at deciding what is right and what is orthodox and what actually works without really thinking about it. But personally, I have no interest in anything sort of too complicated. I quite like the way that they try to cure Charles II on his deathbed, having had 78,000 million strokes, and I think they strapped starlings to his feet.
Oh no!
I mean,
that works.
That will work, won't it? That's a good one.
I don't know why they, why does it just have to be medicine? Why can't they have like alternative plumbing?
Yes.
Yeah. Well, there's a lot of that about as well.
In general.
But now it's Polish.
Yeah.
And rather good.
You could have a homeopathic plumber.
Yeah.
He didn't mess around with the usual tools
just
of
did
plumbing.
little tiny things.
Yeah, or anoint the tap with some oil. Or
homeopathic house builder, and the houses are that big. Little tiny house.
So that's alternative medicine, or the King's Evil, as I call it. Anyway, moving on to the final question, which is my personal question. Does the team think that the best album ever released is Dance Anthems 96? Or would the team rather listen to a nectarine rotting in the sun? Arthur.
Well,
good album, isn't it?
Well, I think it is an excellent album, but it's not as good as listening to a nectarine and going off, because I think you'll find listening to a nectarine would be a truly remarkable oral experience.
Exactly.
I think it would, this is Turner Prize winning stuff. A rotten old nectarine, that's my idea of a night out. I love it.
Good. Joe?
I think possibly better than that are those really long adverts on television for ones that are always songs for lovers. But there's a film of about 5 minutes long, isn't it, of people that's always on a beach.
Generally featuring Neil Sedaka.
Yes, and Michael Ball singing really hideous songs.
Weren't you a man who was dancing in 96, Vic?
Oh, dancing? I've never danced in my life.
Really?
That is not true.
I move gently from side to side.
Well, yeah, but you do it marvellously. Do you remember Folkestone?
I remember,
Yes.
Only with you, Tom. My only dancing partner ever has been Tom Baker.
Yes, that's
but
true.
that's a different story.
Yes, it is.
So, Tom, what about you?
Oh, no, I absolutely think the album is terrible. I mean,
It is awful, isn't it?
I prefer the percussing of dentures in the waiting room.
Surely track 8 is quite good.
What is
I'm totally derivative.
Lawrence? It must be your favourite. What is your favourite album?
Oddly, it's actually Dance Anthems 95. So I'm out by a year. But I'm rather. I find it something of a quandary. How could one choose? As Arthur says, it's an extraordinary experience listening to a nectarine
Rotting
off.
gently in the sun. In the Spanish sun, especially.
Well, now you've made it even worse.
Yeah, I know,
sake.
exactly.
I've not heard that, not Spanish.
I don't like it in the
The
Spanish.
Spanish sun under Philip II. Well, I think we've come to a conclusion there, ladies and gentlemen, and I must say thank you very much, ladies and dental nurses. I sincerely hope you've found the answers to your vexing queries and will endeavour to employ the answers for good purposes and not to further the legal wrangling with your neighbour over the ownership of that pitiful hydrangea. I know I did. Goodbye. That was Does the Team Think with Vic Reeves and this week's guests, Arthur Smith, Tom Baker, Laurence Llewelyn-Bowen and Joe Caulfield. It was written by Vic Reeves and was produced by Paul Russell. This has been an open mic production for BBC Radio 2.